Welcome to episode number 6 of Texas Tracks and Taps. I'm John.
I'm Graham.
And I'm Coy.
Well, welcome. Appreciate everybody joining once again. We're ready to kick into another show after the holidays. We got a lot to talk about. First of all, we're going to cover today, how our holidays were. Graham and Coy, I'm really anxious to see, how your holidays were because we haven't really had an opportunity to catch up. We've also got quite a bit to discuss. Main topic today is really going to be around AI, both in music and in beer, and how that relates. And we've also got a game show that Coy is going to kind of fill us in on and share some information on. And of course, we've had homework, Coy and I, over the holidays. But before we get into that, guys, how was your holiday?
Mine was good. Did the family thing at home on Christmas Day, and then the day after, on Thursday, we went up to Broken Bow. My wife's family rented a cabin up there for the whole extended family. So there was 22 of us in this really nice big cabin, and had to hang out there Thursday through Monday. So that was a good time. Really enjoyed that. And I'm gonna show you some of the presents I got, and tell you what I got as well. This is Jeff Buckley's Grace.
Nice.
Lionel.
Very nice.
The Birds, Fifth Dimension. And Smashing Pumpkins Gish.
Oh,
These
wow.
are gifts from my 2 eldest daughters. Got me the vinyls. So, and then I did also
That alone is a great Christmas.
Yeah, and then my wife got me a new podcast microphone. So
Very nice. Coy, how about you? How was your holiday?
It was good. Pretty low key. We didn't travel or do much, just visited family locally and hung out, played a lot of party games with family of all ages. So our big discovery was a game called Happy Salmon. So yeah, for the board game podcast one day, we'll talk about that more, but it's really fun, really fun game of just interacting with people and trying to get rid of cards as you do so. So if you like fun, fast-paced party games that are easy to play, that's a good one. You can play that for hours and not get tired of it. But other than that, music-wise, I didn't add to my music library much gift-wise, but I did. My big gift was a Boss Katana amplifier for my guitar, which is pretty cool in that it works with your computer to basically get the guitar tones that you're looking for directly preloaded into the amp so that you can just have it there ready to go versus having a whole bunch of pedals, which, we're going to talk a lot about pedals with the shoegaze conversation here in a little bit. But I mean, I'm a pretty big pedal guy, but just had heard a lot of people talk about this amp. I tried it out and really liked it. And it's just cool how there's a community online where everyone's gotten in the software and kind of recreated this tones for specific songs. So you can kind of just like search for a song. Someone will already have the patch for it. You download it and get it added to your library, and you can just dial it up with a click versus trying to dial it in with all the different pedals. So it's kind of neat. I've been playing around with that a lot. Recording a little bit here and there as well. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I enjoy the end of year Spotify Wrap, or just like there's some pretty cool mashups where people will just kind of mash up all the hit songs of the year and together. So I've been having fun listening to that with my family and looking at our Wrapped, which was for me very emo heavy, retro, millennial emo stuff, but also with my daughters, there's a lot of the girl pink power pop stuff going on too, which was fun to hear all that mixed in. It was like, I think Spotify said I was like a goth mall pink power pop princess or something like that, which I thought was an interesting way to summarize my year. But I'm sure AI figured that out, and we'll talk about AI today too as well.
I'm glad you brought up Happy Salmon. You introduced us to that, Lori and I, my wife and I, played at your house. So Lori bought it for the trip up to Broken Bow so we could play with her family, and they loved it as well. It was a really good time. A lot of fun. So
yeah, the first time I played it was with you guys. I had gotten it just like an Amazon deal and was like, it might be fun, might not. It's cheap. Yeah, we played it around Thanksgiving with Graham and some friends, and I think we know like 3 or 4 families that have bought it since they played it. And then yeah, we played it a ton with Sarah's family over the holidays. So yeah. How about you, John? How was your holiday?
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you guys had great holidays. I ask for pretty much one thing every year, and that's vinyl. That's just my thing. And I got some really great titles this year. First off, I got Garth Brooks at the Ryman, which is actually a 3 LP album of him live, in Nashville at the Ryman, which is super cool since I was
Wow.
there in 2024. My daughter always gives me an album for music that I typically would not like gravitate to. Matter of fact, I do have several Taylor Swift albums from her. This year I didn't get Taylor Swift, but I got Gracie Abrams' album.
Nice.
And so I haven't had an opportunity to spin either one of these yet, but that's going to be interesting. I can't tell you I'm familiar with her music, although I probably heard it. I just don't recognize it. And then this is going to be a weird one. The last one I'll show is this is one that I, believe it or not, didn't have in my collection, but In Utero by Nirvana. And this is actually the 2013 mix that was put out on 2 albums. I pretty much had every other Nirvana album in my collection, but I didn't have that one. So finally can say I'm a completist when it comes to Nirvana. But outside of that, spent the holidays here in the DFW area. Boy and I got to see each other one night, which we'll talk about. We got to see a concert while we were off for the holidays, but no travel for me, guys. Just kind of stayed around the house, worked on a couple projects, and listened to a lot of music. So
Sounds good.
That's all you need.
Yeah. All right. So on our last episode, our bottle share episode, I gave you guys an assignment to listen to one of my favorite, most underrated bands, in my opinion, and that was Swervedriver. So, what did you guys listen to, and what were your impressions of Swervedriver?
Yeah, I think we were talking about it earlier that I didn't get to listen to them as much as I would have liked to, just with how busy the holidays were. But everything that I had heard and that I thought was going to be the case was confirmed by what I did get to listen to. I'm a pretty big shoegaze fan, so I think this is on me that I wasn't more familiar with them. And I'm honestly surprised that like they're not bigger than they are. Like, I mean, they're very, very good. But yeah, it took me back to those like late 90s or mid to late 90s, early 2000s. I listened to that was kind of my dominant genre, I would say, would be shoegaze. And then that kind of went into emo for me, being the next big thing I got into. But yeah, I loved that kind of music. So yeah, I was really surprised that it kind of missed my radar for so long. I'd heard of them, but just had never really gotten into them. So I need to continue to check them out and listen to them more. But yeah, I listened to songs from their first 2 albums. And yeah, it was just enough for me to be like, I need to keep going. But yeah, it was all thumbs up for me on that one. But I know, John, you got a little bit deeper dive than I was able to on it.
yes, well, Coy, thanks for going into that. But Swervedriver just was not on my radar at all through the 90s and the aughts, and up till really the time I think I'd heard of them through Rick Beato and through Graham, but hadn't really focused on them and listened to them a lot. But I did a deep dive for you, Graham. I always take my homework serious. And I listened to 2 main albums. Once again, it was really tough during the holidays to kind of go deep into their catalog, and they have been around for some time, since basically I think they formed in 1989 and started releasing albums into the 90s, and then they had a period where they broke up, and then they started releasing, I think, material again in like 2015. So I typically approach these in the same way. I try to listen to like the oldest music or the first music that they put out. So I did listen to the album Raise in its entirety. And I want to make a comment about one particular song. This is definitely shoegaze music. I mean, that's the way you would describe it. And not everybody may be familiar with what shoegaze music is. I had to actually research it, a while back to kind of understand what that type of music is. But and I, Graham and Coy, please chime in here. But It's basically very heavy guitars, basically guitars turned up, sometimes overpowering the vocals in some cases. But it's, I hate to call it jangly, but I mean, it sometimes seems like some of the music is a little bit jangly in terms of the big heavy chords, but
Drony, dreamy, there comes smoke.
dreamy. Yeah.
Effects heavy, like talking about pedals
Yes.
earlier. It's
Yeah,
shoegaze because the guitarists are accused of staring at their feet the whole time, but they're really just dialing into their pedals constantly because it is a genre where the guitar tone takes precedent over everything else, like, singing, lyrics, drums, everything. It's like kind of secondary there to serve the guitar and the effects they're going for the guitar. I mean, Radiohead kind of gets into that too at some points, although I think their lyrics and vocals are pretty, I mean, actually all their instrumental stuff is pretty great too. But yeah, you're on the right
Smashing
track for sure.
Pumpkins, let's say first two Smashing
Yep,
Pumpkins.
Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
In that zone.
No, thank you for describing. You did a lot better job than I could have done. But one thing I like to do, guys, is be a little bit controversial. And there was one particular song on an album, and Graham, I really would love to get your feedback on this. And I don't know if you picked up on this one, Coy, because I think you listened to a little bit of Ray's as well.
Yeah.
There's a song called "Rave Down" on that album.
Yes.
And that song, I actually played it back like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, what does that sound like? And I finally narrowed it down to Hum's song "Stars." There's a lot of similarities between "Stars" and "Rave Down" in terms of those two songs and their sounds. So it took me a little while to kind of hone in on it and get to it. With that said, great song, and actually the entire album was really solid. The other album that I listened to was their latest, and Graham, correct me if I'm wrong, they've gone through some personnel changes, so I don't think that it's the same original band today.
Yeah, I don't know if all the original members are there. I know Adam is the linchpin. But
Their latest album, Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do, I think that's the title of their latest album that came out 2024, last year, I can say now. A lot of songs on that album, even heavier shoegaze, in my opinion, even though in the research I did, I think they're trying to shift and morph in terms of their sound a little bit, but I still got the impression it was still very shoegazy. But, I always listen for what I call a tight band, like whether or not everything from the guitars to the vocals to the drums or, really connect with me and really, I think they're just a tight band. Like they just sound really good all together. And I'm really surprised that I hadn't kind of listened to this band earlier. There's a million bands like this out there that just kind of fall under the radar, unfortunately, that don't have the mainstream success that the Nirvanas and the Pearl Jams of the world have had. But I really enjoyed it, and great band, man. So once again, I think we're 2 for 2 now. So I appreciate it.
Really good live too, and they're very tight live as well. So I've only had a chance to see them once, and it wasn't in their heyday. It was probably about, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. Kind of when probably around the time they reformed in 2015 and put out that album. I think it was probably around that time. But excellent show, loud, really, really loud, but really, really good. If we get a chance to see them live, I would definitely recommend it.
And Stars came out 3 years after Rave Down, just FYI.
Right, that's what I was gonna say too. Like, to me, I knew Rave Down before Hum, so I never made that connection. But I'll have to go back and listen to it and see if I can pick out those similarities.
For the record, Hum
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Not saying that, especially when it's that close. I feel like they probably already had written that song well before they recorded it. It's usually the case, but there's
Hum's definitely in that genre.
That genre, just you're gonna have songs that sound similar for sure.
Sure.
Right.
But yeah, we'll have to listen, see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
I didn't pick it up, but I wasn't thinking about that either. So.
All right. Well, what are you guys drinking tonight? It's BYOB episode, so we didn't really have a set brewery that we were going to feature tonight. We're end of the year, it's kind of clean out the fridge time because we had compiled quite a bit of beers in our fridge. So what are we going with tonight?
Well, I have Turning Point. We're all familiar with from last episode, but finishing off Diamond Dogs. My second brew that I'm going to drink tonight is a different one, but this one is a Vienna lager and mighty tasty. So
Cool.
Well, in the vein of Vienna lagers, I also have a Vienna lager from right down the street a ways from Turning Point from False Idol, but it's actually a collaboration with Petacolis, a Dallas brewery. Petacolis has been collaborating with a lot of the local breweries like recently to come out with kind of like different takes on their beers. So this is an oak fermented Vienna lager called Nonstop, and it is really, really good. Had it last night at False Idol and left with a 4-pack because it was so good. I like some oak aged stuff. A Vienna lager, I never don't think I've ever had one that was oak aged, so I was kind of just curious and really, really liked that flavor profile. Kind of reminded me of a whiskey because he kind of had the maltiness and the oakiness. So that was a plus for me that it reminded me of that. But here's what it looks like color wise. But yeah, it was very, very, very good. So enjoying that yesterday and today.
Sounds delicious. I'm gonna have to try that.
Yep.
I had some leftover from when we were at Turning Point as well. Forgot Texas with a dollar sign once again, because that's what I purchased when we were there doing our last episode. So polishing that off tonight.
Nice. Well, cheers,
Oh,
guys. I think usually we try to tie in our beer with the episode, but we probably couldn't find any AI related beer here locally. We wanted to talk a little bit about AI today in today's episode. So I think that's probably why we had to kind of just BYOB it today versus having something more on topic. But I think that being said, we want to kick off this kind of AI conversation, why we thought maybe it'd be something that both musically and beer fandom would be talking about these days.
let's stay away from AI. No.
I'm maybe more in the middle on it. I don't love it for everything, but there's definitely some things that I've found it to be interesting.
for sure. I mean, AI has its purposes, it has its uses. There's going to be good things and bad things, just like with anything. I think for me, I just kind of I get concerned about kind of where it's headed and how much it's actually going to take over. I hope that it doesn't. And I think I was thinking about this today, and I listened to a podcast the other day. It's called The History and Future of AI and Music. A podcast called The Ongoing History of New Music, which I just discovered based on searching for something on this topic. And I'll have to listen to more of their episodes because it was good. But yeah, it's one of those things where does the positivity, the things that we can gain from it, do those things outweigh what maybe it can take away from music and art and those sort of things. And so I think at the end of the day, we'll figure out a way, as we always have, to kind of merge the two together and still hopefully maintain art as a thing that is created by people and not machines or computers or however you want to phrase it. But I mean, there's always been technology that comes along that is new and exciting and maybe sometimes scary, but throughout history we have been able to still maintain art and keep it, I guess, pure to some extent. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about just all that? I mean, where is it going? What's the downfalls possibly, and you know, what's the good that can come of it? What's some of the positive things that is going on with it right now?
Yeah, I think there are, and I started this off by saying boo no to AI, but I am more middle of the road in all honesty. I think that for a lot of the laborious or menial tasks that are out there, and this goes for music, it goes for a lot of things I think within
Right.
society. AI can make those a lot more efficient and not burden us as human beings with those tasks. And if we talk about music specifically, and I went down some rabbit holes. You guys know this the other night, really listening to some musicians and what their thoughts were on AI. I always hold Beato in high regard in terms of what his thoughts are. So I watched that months ago. But, I think from the positive standpoint, there's a lot of things that in the music industry today, AI is being used to take that burden off a human being. So when you're talking about having to mix, music, AI is able to make that a lot quicker and a lot more efficient than perhaps maybe how we've done that in the past. Anything that would require just hours of listening and going through tracks, trying to fine tune a track, that's making it a lot more efficient. I think that there's a lot of positives from that standpoint. If you flip the coin over on the negatives, when we talk about anything creative, and Graham, you were just talking about this, in terms of actually making the music, like crafting the lyrics, writing the actual, bars and the music of a piece, that should be left to the humans, in my opinion. Even though I proved out in a matter of 30 seconds, I was able to make a couple different opening tracks for Texas Tracks and Taps. I did a shoegaze one and I did a grunge one, and it writes out the lyrics, it writes out the music in literally 30 seconds. It's pretty amazing. But I think that's where the negatives come in, and that's where we need to let humans be humans and handle that side. Coy?
Yeah, I agree. It's like you hear people say this is like, we don't want AI to take the jobs that people want to do. We want it to take the jobs that people don't want to do. And I agree. There are plenty of artists out there that want to create, and to take that away from them, I can never get on board with that. But to your point, the optimization of something you create, like using it to help either maybe at the beginning to just get the juices flowing, maybe like, there's all kinds of like exercises you can do to get, your creativity going. I think AI is good at maybe suggesting some things that get the conversation started, get those juices going, but it's not at that's as good as it should get at the beginning. And then at the end, like you were saying, John, like some optimization of mixing or things like that. One great example I think of, from recently, a little over a year ago, Graham and I and our wives, we went to the Sphere in Vegas and saw U2. Awesome show, visually, the best sounding show I've ever heard. So they use AI for the mixing there, where no matter where you're sitting, it sounds exactly the same, which is just a mind-blowing concept if you've ever gone to a concert. My philosophy has always been get as close to the soundboard as possible, because that's where it's going to sound the best. That's where they're mixing it from. But now that AI is helping with that, it really does, that's a good thing. It's helping it sound better across the board, no matter where your seats are. But in that same show, they also used AI for some of the visuals, and it was probably my least favorite visual moment is the one that was the most heavily AI. And I didn't know until afterwards that it was, what it was. And I was like, well, that makes sense, because it was just kind of weird and kind of off. And Graham, I don't know if you remember it. It was cool at first, but it was the Elvis montage that just like had so much imagery, and it was cool, but then it just like, what, this is just weird, like, and then you're like, oh, AI created it, not a person that's probably just didn't have like the those bumpers of like, I shouldn't do this.
This makes sense, is this does this fit?
Yeah, and it was, I mean, it's Vegas, and I'm sure they were like saying excess was probably part of what they were going for there. But yeah, it was just a lot. And it was a lot of, I'm sure it all wasn't random, but it just kind of felt more random than it should have. And just weird. I don't know. It just, there was something a little off-putting. It's that uncanny valley, I think, that people talk about a lot, where it's just like, I don't want us to ever get used to it. And that's what I'm afraid of, is if it just keeps getting better and it keeps getting used, we're just going to not be able to tell anymore. And there's already some really, really good fake stuff out there that is hard to tell. And I'm more scared probably of anything of just the fake news and fake, sound bites and video clips that people are going to be like, this is real, and it's just completely AI, and it's going to change the way that we consume just information and news. And like, we need to know that stuff. We need to be able to trust those sources. But yeah, that's my fear of it, but also I do like it. I was going to kind of mention to or ask you guys, like when we started thinking about doing the podcast, I know we kind of used AI a little bit just to get some ideas going, what we could do. And, I don't, but at that point, we haven't like ever had it write an episode for us. And I think that shows that we don't write episodes at all. We
Yeah,
just kind of
right.
like, hey, we want to talk about this stuff. And then we're just like, it's just unfiltered, unplugged, and we edit it down afterwards, or Graham does. He does a great job with it. But I mean, how did you guys feel about it when we were kind of just using it as maybe a jump start to get us motivated, is kind of how I feel we might have used it.
Hmm. I mean, I guess I don't know exactly what you're referring to there, but
So
I would
when
say,
we were trying to come up with the name of the show, we definitely
oh,
had
okay.
AI, as it was like the three of us and AI all
Yeah,
contributed to that.
sure, sure.
When we were, I think, trying to come up with the artwork, that was another thing, but we never used the AI artwork. It was more like, this is what I'd like to see, kind of pop in different layouts or templates, and then we got that
Yeah.
to an actual talented
Well, like
artist.
you said, I don't think I have a problem with it as a springboard to, kind of get ideas or get, like you said, those creative juices flowing. But I think at the end of the day, and especially with music, like, those things to me are a little different. I mean,
Yeah.
um, I guess creating logos and things, that's definitely an art. But with music, emotion is such a key player in it. And that's where I think the disconnect is, as far as like when you have machines, computers creating music, even creating lyrics. I don't know that that's to me that's not real. That's, it's there's something, definitely not genuine about that. And I think, with like when you're writing a piece of music, you have a certain emotion that you're trying to convey to the listener, and you do that through the way the music sounds, or the tone, or the rhythm, or whatever. And then the same with lyrics, you write a you know phrase or whatever, with a certain thought in your head, and a feeling in your heart, and you kind of put those things together to create something that is, conveying this bigger emotion. And so I think with AI, I mean, AI doesn't have emotions, at least not at this point. So, I don't know if that's possible, but that's what scares me is, and then I also too, like, I was listening to another podcast. This was a while back, but it was one John actually recommended to me when we first started talking about this, is Vinyl Emergency. And he had Fran Healy from Travis on, and he was talking about how he thinks, and I've also listened to some other things kind of on this same subject, just getting more specific, but where he thinks that in the future, AI will basically write music for each person, individualized music for you. Like, basically, it's going to write a soundtrack to your life. And that's another thing that, for me, that's big thumbs down. Because, and the reason for that is because, while it may be, it's kind of cool, like, if you think about it, it's kind of cool that there's this, machine, this computer creating something that's specifically, tailored to you. And I mean, you know, in terms of what's happening now already, like Spotify is using algorithms to suggest music that you might like based on what, you're listening to already. And that can be good, because you can find bands, artists that you didn't know of, that you may actually like, but those are still real people making real music. But when you get into, this computer is just creating a music that's tailored specifically for you, and you're the only one listening to that music, that's when I have a real big problem with it.
Mm.
Because I think one of the coolest things about music is the communal aspect of it. When, and I feel like that's already getting lost in a lot of ways too, even with just, with Spotify, and like just the access to how many different artists you have out there. And, there's so much, you're inundated with all these different bands, and I can listen to these bands that I was suggested to on my radar, and then, you're listening to a whole bunch of other bands, and the fact that, terrestrial radio is not a thing anymore kind of, takes away from this as well, because, we're not all listening to the same things, like, and I think when that happens, you miss out on that camaraderie, that community that we can get together and we can talk about these bands that we love, and we share this common love for this common music or this common art or whatever. And so that's for me where I think it's a problem.
Yeah.
And I don't like it, and it worries me.
Yeah, it shouldn't replace what's already good and what's already working, but it's okay if like for a bit. If you want to do a bit, like my wife had AI roast her because she uses AI a lot, and so like it just looked at all the conversations that they have had and was like, and it basically did like a Comedy Central roast of her. And like, so you can ask AI if you've been like given it enough information about yourself, it will just like, it's funny, and it was a funny bit, but like I would still rather have Pete Davidson do it or some, like an actual comedian. So yeah,
Right.
to your point, Graham, it should never replace like the community of why we like entertainment, why we like art. But John, what were you going to say?
Well, I mean, my concern is that the toothpaste is out of the tube, so to speak, already. AI is out there, and there's really no control over it, like in terms of what you can and cannot do with it. And I hate to say this, but I think that music, there's only a finite amount of chords. There's a finite amount of sounds that you can actually make, although it may be in the millions or billions. There's a finite amount, and when you have computers that could literally craft every combination of music or something that's appealing to the human ear, you literally could have a machine probably write all the millions of songs that are possible to make out there in just a matter of hours. And then there's just no creativity, there's no discovery, and everything that you and Graham are talking about right now goes out the window. That's my fear, is that there's really no control over it. And I think if we use AI as a tool, like you said in the beginning, if we're looking to use it as a brainstorming tool, no problem at all, man. Like, have at it, use it. It's no different than looking at a magazine or a book for inspiration to try to write a song, or going for a walk and just looking around your area trying to get inspired by something. So if you're using it for that inspiration, I'm fully supportive. The really crazy thing out there though is, I was watching a YouTube channel of a musician who wrote out lyrics to a song and put it into AI, and the way that it sang the song back to him actually moved him. He was like, "Oh my gosh, like I could have never created the emotion that AI created." And so even though he wanted to hate AI, he was like, "Man, like those are my lyrics and it sung him beautifully, like with emotion."
Mm-hmm.
And it was like it was a male artist, but they sang it in a female voice. And so he was like moved by it. He's like, "Man, I don't think I could have put that much emotion into that song." And so, you've got that, and then you've got like the Beatles, who I think used AI to recreate a song like a couple of years ago, and I know there's other artists that have done that. So that, unfortunately, that toothpaste is out of the tube, guys. Like it's being
with the Beatles example though, that it is those four guys made those, those sounds. They wrote that music. Yeah, they used AI to put it together, which that I don't, that I don't have a problem with, and that's cool. Like that's cool that they were able to do that.
I think as long as they do it, it's fine. Like I think I have a problem when other people do it. And because you see this a lot and more in like the movie and film, television, where they're using performances that actors have already given, or,
Right.
And yeah, that I think from a writer standpoint and a performer standpoint, you should control that you've created and not the studios. But
Yeah, and
I
one
get what
thing
you're
that
saying.
in this recent podcast that I listened to, is one thing he talked about is it does have to be, you have to have regulations on it at some point. And just like when the whole sampling thing was a big deal and there was a lot of controversy around that, like we had to put some kind of, regulation on that so that, anybody can't just take a sample from any song and use it and put it in their art and take credit for it. You have to sort all that out somehow. And
Yeah,
so,
and I
yeah.
think to also just to John's point he made earlier, it's great for brainstorming, but don't let it, you know, do all the work because like, bands have done that forever. If they're trying to go for a certain sound, they might cover a song that's kind of similar to what, just like when they're practicing and rehearsing, they're like, well, let's play this song by this other band that it's kind of what we're looking for just to get our kind of juices flowing. So like people have been doing that forever. Like you said, John, reading a book. We listened to podcasts when we were getting ready. AI was part of it. It wasn't the whole thing. And I think that's just to echo what John was saying on that. I completely agree with that too.
Yeah, you just got to maintain a human element there too. Or if you don't, then to me, that's not art anymore.
Yeah. So are we
Uh,
going to put in the clips that John made of the music?
No, doesn't.
I think we should just so
why
people
not?
can
Yeah,
hear
we should.
what it's like when AI creates it versus our theme song is actually created by a human and let people judge for themselves, but hopefully we don't replace that with.
One interesting thing too from this podcast that he was talking about, which I hadn't thought about this at all, but he's talking about how songwriters use AI because you can songwriters who write songs for other people using it to, they write their song and then they can put it in the computer and then they can hear it in the voice of the artist that they're,
Oh,
writing it for. And so
that's cool.
that's helpful for them to, to be able to hear it in the voice of
Yeah.
the person they're recording it for. That to me was pretty interesting and kind of cool. And I think that's probably a cool, useful use of it, because you might not know what you're writing, what the melody and the harmony and the lyrics and whatever, how it all fits together, how it's going to actually sound when that artist sings it. So
Yeah,
that's kind
that's kind of cool. I think we'll talk about it a little bit later when we talk about AI and beer, which, people might not even know that that's a thing too. But yeah, just that kind of using it to optimize what you're going for. So not, it's not doing everything for you, but you put in everything and it's like, how can it be tweaked and made a little bit better that I hadn't thought of or I'm not seeing or hearing? Well, I think that it might be time to move to our next little part of the show. We're going to put a break in the discussion between AI and music. And before we get to AI and beer, my favorite use of AI, and I alluded to it earlier, is doing bits. I think doing bits with AI is kind of fun, kind of funny. But so what I've done, I've made a quick little game show for John and Graham for you guys to see how well you can do telling an actual Texas country artist from suggestions that AI gave me because I told it I'm an aspiring Texas country artist, but I need a stage name. And it gave me some suggestions. So I'll read a name and you tell me real Texas country music artist or one of the stage name suggestions that I got from AI. You guys ready? We'll keep score.
of. We have to
Ready?
ding. We have to ding in. We have to hit a bell. What do we do?
No, we'll take turn. We'll alternate. We'll take turns. Who gets to answer first?
I need
And so, like, maybe round one, Graham, you go first, then John can say,
to.
like, yeah, I think so too. But round two, John will get to go first. How about that? Does that sound good? Because
That'll work.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear what both of you think, not just who can answer fastest.
Right.
All right, here we go. You guys ready? Are you sure?
Ready.
All right.
Thanks.
Let's see here. Let's go with this one. Monty Hawkeye Henson.
Monty Hawkeye Henson. I'm going to go with that being a real artist, real Texas artist.
I'm going AI.
All right. All right. John gets a point.
Ah.
Oh,
That is a real artist. He was born in 1953. He is actually more known for being a professional cowboy, rodeo cowboy. He's got like 3 national championships for saddle bronc riding, but he also has done music. He was also in the HBO series Deadwood, playing a character named Hawkeye that seemed to be a part written specifically for him, but also country music entertainer and rodeo promoter. So cool. But yeah, not easy so far. We already have some divided answers here. We'll just jump to the next one. Smoky hog. SMOKEYHOGG. Graham, I'll let you go first this time. Smoky hog. Sounds like a barbecue place to me, which that could be the next one. Real barbecue place or AI barbecue place?
AI.
Smoky Hog's AI. Okay.
I have to agree. I think that's AI as well.
Both going AI.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the Scottish rugby player or the English soccer football player, Andrew Hogg, but there is an Andrew Smoky Hogg born in 1914, died in 1960. He was a post-war Texas blues and country blues musician. He was born in West Connie and died in McKinney.
Interesting.
All right. So no points awarded on that one, but you can already
Rest
see
in peace, Smoky Hog.
Smoky Hogg. I mean, we should check him out. Blue sounds like a pioneer of the post-war blues, Texas blues and Texas country. We're gonna go with Cody Canyon. CODYCANYON.
Cody Canyon.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with AI. It just
Okay.
sounds too basic.
Sounds too basic. I got it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go AI too.
All right. You'll both get a point for that one. That was one
Yes.
that AI thought I should use as one of my stage names, which I like. It's got the same initials and alliteration going that my normal name has. Let's see here. Let's go with Christian Kane.
Go with real.
Damn it. Christian Kane.
Spell it.
CHRISTIANKANE.
Christian Kane. I'm gonna have to go with AI.
All right. Graham gets a point, so we're all tied up. That is a real artist. He's done a lot of acting as well. So TV shows, Angel, Leverage, The Librarians. He's also been in some movies, Just Married, Secondhand Lions. But he fronts the band Kane, Kane, which is his name. They are kind of Southern rock, but he's from Dallas, Texas. All right. So we're all tied up. Maybe we'll do a couple more here, see where we end up. Let's go with Maverick Morgan. Is it John first this time? I can't remember.
I'm gonna go with AI.
Okay.
Maverick.
Again, too basic or something different this time?
Yeah. Maverick Morgan.
I agree. I think it's AI.
Who's the country? There's a country artist with the last name Morgan, but there's a lot of them. Lori Morgan.
Well, there's Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, Morgan Wallen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, we both got a point there. Still tied. Maverick Morgan is my other stage name that AI wants me to have. All right, just do a couple more here. Let's see. How about Cowboy Slim Reinhardt?
I'll go real.
John?
I am going to go real as well because AI has not picked a 3 name name yet.
Okay, all right. I like it. Both get a point there. It's staying knotted up. I think you guys are getting good at picking your AI from your real artists. Cowboy Slim Reinhardt, he was born Nolan Alfred Reinhardt in 1911 in Comanche County, Texas. That's how long ago it was. But he was one of the pioneers of the singing cowboy, Gene Autry, Roy Rogers type. He actually helped shape Ernest Tubbs' career. So he is in the Texas Country Music Hall of Fame and very, very famous, but just one of those names you don't hear very often. But he is, yeah, he's one of the pioneers, one that we should know, but just had a hint of maybe is AI. So I tried to find names that was like, maybe this isn't real. All right, I'll give you another 3-namer since to test your theory here, John. Texas Twang Tanner.
What was the second name? Twang?
Twang. TWANG.
Texas Twang. Gotta go AI on this one.
Yep. AI.
Yeah, you both got it. That one is ridiculous. And AI seems to like alliteration. Now that I'm looking at all these, they're almost all alliteration. I've got a couple that aren't, but all right, we'll try one more here. Boxcar Willie.
That's real.
Yeah, I've heard of
Heard of him.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Just testing, making sure you'd heard of the great Boxcar Willie.
Boxcar Willie.
Yeah, born in Ovilla, Texas, died in Branson, Missouri. But yeah, his real name's Liesel Travis Martin. He had a song, Boxcar Willie, and took on the name, and he had that kind of old time hobo style. All right, man, you
Wasn't
guys are all knotted up. I don't think there's going to be a tiebreaker here, so I'm just going to say you're both equally good at spotting
so
AI.
question on Boxcar Willie? What was Mickey Mouse's original name? Wasn't there
Steamboat Willie, I think.
Steamboat Willie?
Yeah,
Okay.
very close.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walt Disney used AI for the name of that one. AI was
Yes.
just like, well, there's Boxcar Willie. Your mouse is on a steamboat.
From now on, are we calling you Cody Canyon? Is that
Yeah, I don't care.
Great,
What
he's
you
on
call it. You can.
stage.
Here are the other ones. Dusty Road Walker didn't use alliteration. Is three names. That one might have tripped you up. But that's
Dusty
AI.
Rhodes, the wrestler?
Yeah, it is a little wrestler and Walker, Texas Ranger. But it's just funny, like, yeah, you walk on dusty roads. You're the Dusty Road Walker. You're obviously
Right.
a Texan musician. Lone Star Crooner, which is just an awful, awful suggestion. No
Yeah.
offense to AI. Matt Sagebrush Smith. Yeah, Rusty Ridge. Rusty and Dusty. Willie Westward and Dallas, Dakota. Those were all the AI suggestions I got, and I think we're all in agreement those are worse than actual Texas country names. So, yeah, people should keep making their own stage names.
Sure. Should make their own fake names.
Yeah, make your own fake names. Don't use AI for your fake.
AI sucks at it.
It might get the juices flowing, though. You might end up with a Boxcar Willie if you were using AI and trying to get into that vibe. But all right, well, thanks for indulging me, guys. That was my silly game show.
It was fun. Good job, Graham.
All right. Yeah, well done.
I know.
Good job. Five apiece. You
Thanks
both got tricked up, I think, once, but otherwise, you guys know your stuff.
Thanks for doing that. That was interesting for sure. All right. So what about AI and beer? Like, honestly, I don't know a whole lot about it. Coy had mentioned when we were discussing, doing this episode about AI and music that it has been some AI in the beer industry, a use of AI in the beer industry that I wasn't really aware of. So quite, I mean, I hate, you talked a lot already, but tell us a little bit about
Yeah, no problem.
AI and beer.
Yeah, there's not a lot out there, and I was surprised. Obviously we wanted to talk about AI and music first, and most that was the kind of the reason. But I was like, well, how can we tie it into beer? I just kind of Googled it, and there's actually some out there brewers who are using AI again, not to like completely come up with a recipe for them, but to optimize recipes they already have. And some of these breweries are ones that I admire, like the brewery out in California. Those guys are chemical engineers, they're scientists, they're kind of mad scientists, and that's what I love about them is they already approach beer at this scientific, really smart guy level.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of makes sense that they would be like, let's do one of our recipes, let's throw it through AI, and it just optimized some of the ingredients, the how long they're gonna heat, how they're going to do all the steps of the brewing process. And they released an AI IPA, and I'm trying to remember what theirs is called. I think AIPA is what they called it. So artificial intelligence pale ale maybe is what it stands for. But yeah, and I think that with just kind of everyone talking about AI, it's kind of something to do so people can buy into it a little bit more literally. They probably sold pretty well. I think they also used AI to help with the artwork and the marketing and stuff like that. So again, if you want to do it as a bit, I think I'm in favor for it. It sounds like it was fun for them to do and kind of an experiment, which I think is everyone's doing, is just kind of experimenting with AI right now. But yeah, I don't know that we're going to see, but we might in our lifetime see a completely AI brewery, but I don't know that we'll love a completely AI brewery like we love the breweries that we love.
No, again, the human element, part of what we love about a lot of the breweries is not just that they make great beer, but they're good people, and they do things, they have events, they just you gotta have that human element in there, I think, for me. I don't have any problem with that. I don't have any problem with, like you said, doing it as a bit, for one beer or or to doing it just to kind of optimize things, just as as a tool. If you use it as a tool, but it's not the creative force behind it, So.
Yeah,
And I
I
think we'll
think
see
most of
more and
these.
more of that and more different uses of that. It would be interesting to me, and we'll do this at some point. We're gonna have some brewery owners, some craft brewers on the show. It'd be interesting to get their take on it and their perspective and how they've used it, or if
Yeah.
they plan on using it, or if they have or not.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
this
This is the AI episode, but I think we'll definitely still have the AI conversation in the future. So yeah, it's same thing. I've definitely thought we have some brewers on the show. I'd love to hear their thoughts on it, not just hear us talk about it.
this was not planned, guys, and I have to preface it by saying that Martin House is not using AI to my knowledge, but I have a robot on the front of my can of transfusion, which is from
Mhm.
Martin House Brewery. It's my second brew of the night, but
Thanks.
it's ironic that there is a robot who is actually getting a transfusion.
What's
What kind
funny,
of
John,
beer?
is you could have planned that and taken credit for it, but
I
you're
didn't
just
plan.
such an honest guy. You're like, I didn't even plan it. I grabbed a robot beer talking about AI by accident.
What
But you
beer? What is it? What kind of beer? Sour?
so it's actually an ale that has lime juice, grape juice, and ginger in it.
Huh?
Yeah, it's I would call it more of a summertime type brew. I,
Mm-hmm.
I just happened to pick up a six of it and kind of working my way through it. But going back to the AI conversation, I agree. If you're using AI either to optimize your ingredients in a beer or even if you're experimenting, if you use AI and you want to experiment with some ingredients that you haven't worked with in the past, to make sure you get the right levels in, no, I don't have an issue with that because I think you're using it as a tool just to optimize the ultimate output, the beer. But there's still a human element in there. Human beings still controlling it in that respect. So,
Yeah.
and I really am fine with AI in beer more so than in music or art.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I would say brewing and food and all that is an art, but it's also more scientific to me in a lot of ways. And so I feel like, in my mind anyway, AI doing scientific things seems more acceptable or makes more sense to me in my brain than the creative aspect of music or
some of the food we eat in the United
art,
States, we need AI.
physical work. What's that?
I said some of the food we eat in the United States could use some AI.
Probably.
Yeah, we're heavy on the artificial when it comes to food, so we might as well get some intelligence in there too.
Yeah.
A lot of stupid food.
But I mean, it's interesting. I agree with you, Graham. But just to play devil robot advocate, or yeah, music's probably the most scientific of the arts, or at least maybe that's my opinion. But like, I paint by numbers is a thing, but I think that music by numbers is actually more of a thing. I can only go so far with like painting, but yeah, but music just using science is not the same as music using feeling and heart and science, because then there's sometimes like music is like, wow, that shouldn't have made sense, that shouldn't have been possible in music theory, and they used that to their advantage to make like the point they were trying to make musically,
Yeah, that's
whereas
what I'm
that's not
saying.
going to happen with beer. It's like if you have a happy accident in beer, I mean, well, it actually probably could happen. There probably are happy accidents in beer too, but it's not going to be the same as when it happens in music and in art.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I agree. And at this point, I think, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Nobody knows. But I mean, at this point, it's still, you know, AI isn't creative, quote unquote. Like it has to learn. You have to teach it,
Right.
and you have to put something in to get something out, basically. So, I mean, I don't know. I just I don't love the general idea of it and where it's going, but you know,
Well, it's clear AI wants to take over, especially music, because humans can only do so much with the fingers that we have. And what's the first thing AI did? They gave more fingers And that's specifically saying we are coming for your pianos and your guitars
Mm-hmm.
with
Yeah.
all of our army of extra fingers. Being ridiculous. But if you want to check out some other AI brews, well, I don't know how you check them out. I don't know that you can really buy these and drink them, but if you want to check them out for your brain, to drink it with your brain, some other AI beers I found was Species X Beer Project. It's a Columbus brewery, uses AI employees to make IPAs and lagers. AI-IPA, not to be confused with AIPA from the brewery. This is from Asbury Park Brewery, and they again used AI and machine learning algorithms to help their recipes and hop selection, brewing times, and things like that. And then Handmade by Robots, John, to bring it back to robots. It's a 4.2% American AI-PA from Stotzel Brewery. And it was all crafted using AI algorithms.
Sounds like some of these breweries should have used AI to create the name because like I feel like you've done 3 now that are AIPA.
Well, but you saw the names it gave me for my stage names. I feel like maybe they did. It's not always good if you use AI to name things. Robo Beer is another one. That's the Hazy Pale Ale from Whistle Buoy Brewing. It used Chat GPT to generate the recipe and marketing materials. So I'm sure a lot of startups, just like, when we were starting up, they used AI, especially for their art and marketing for breweries. I would think that's probably a big cost saver for a lot of them. But I do know a lot of breweries are like Martin House, great artwork. I would be surprised if they, if they did AI, I feel like they would say they were doing it. It'd be like part of an experiment or a bit or something. But yeah, I know that they're people like keeping artists employed, and I feel like in the craft beer industry,
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised that we don't hear more about like AI being used by the big beer companies, because that seems like a no-brainer. Where they just want to save costs anywhere they can. Actually, I
What do they
think I
call it
just
here?
recently saw Budweiser always has the Christmas commercial with the Clydesdales. And
Mhm.
this year, at the bottom of that Clydesdale Christmas commercial, it said it was AI generated.
There you
Really?
So go look up the Budweiser Christmas commercial this year, and it is AI. And Coca-Cola did an AI polar bear one. So the big companies, I think, are all in on AI. That's for sure.
Yes.
Just touching real quick on art though. So John and I went to Keyworth Brewing a couple weeks ago, and we were checking out all their artwork. Their artist is one of their regulars. They have some really cool artwork. So, and it's a good brewery. So definitely just putting in a quick plug. Go check them out. Support them. They need it. They've been open about, what was that? I think 18 months, something like that. 16, 18 months, a little over a year. But yeah, check them out. They got good beer and they're
Yeah,
good people.
been meaning to check them out for sure. I think we're closing the show, and before we do though, I just want to say, just go on the record that I, for one, welcome our robotic overlords, just in case AI is listening, which they are for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I say,
But how do
fuck
we close a show
AI.
about AI? Should we have AI write a close for us, or just close it the normal way? What are we
Yeah,
teasing for next time? We have anything to
do it.
tease?
Let's do it. I'm gonna have AI write a close for us right now.
The next episode, John, should we talk about the concert we went to? That I don't know how much AI was involved in that concert, but it was a pretty good concert. In
It
that
was an
venue,
excellent concert. Zero AI involved in that evening, I believe.
and all ages were enjoying that, which was something that I really appreciated. It wasn't just older fellas like you and me, but pretty young
Oh,
audience.
and my first time ever to Billy Bob's
Yes. Yeah. So
in
John and I
Fort
went to
Worth.
Billy Bob's, where we
Yep.
saw a rock show, not a country show, because he had never been to Billy Bob's. He had never seen the Toadies. So we got two things
We'll
checked
talk
off the
about that.
list there. So yeah, we will talk about that next time, I think, while it's still fresh. So something to
All
look
right.
forward to next episode.
So this is what Copilot wrote. Thanks for spitballing there for a second. Well, folks, that's a wrap for this episode of Texas Tracks and Taps. We've taken you on a journey through the heart of Texas, exploring the rich tapestry of our local music scene and savoring the unique flavors of our craft beer culture. Co-host, so someone else is supposed to be saying this, but y'all don't have it, so I'll continue. That's right. From the twang of country guitars to the hop-filled brews, we've celebrated the best of what Texas has to offer, whether you're a die-hard music lover, a craft beer enthusiast, or just someone who enjoys a good story. We hope you enjoyed the ride. Make sure to follow us on social media for updates and upcoming episodes, behind the scenes content, and much more. And don't forget to subscribe to Texas Tracks and Taps on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. That is good advice from AI.
Yeah, I
If you
appreciate
loved
that
what
from the
you-
AI. The rest of it, I don't feel like it was listening to the show at all.
Right.
So maybe they aren't listening, but yeah, no.
If you loved what you heard, leave us a review. Let us know your favorite part of today's show. Your feedback helps us bring you more of what you love. Until next time, keep the music playing and the beer flowing. Cheers.
I'm Cody Canyon. Thank you.
Dang it, you took my name. Then I heard Twang, so
Cody
I'm
Canyon?
Texas Twang Tanner. We'll see you next time.